should be prevented. That we all know. Suicide causes premature loss of death, and we as doctors whose profession is to take care and protect life definitely will want to prevent suicide. So, is it preventable? That is the question before us. And if it is preventable, how we can prevent suicide? So, I will ask a similar question. Are accidents preventable? You all know that accidents are preventable to some extent. So what we do about that? We know we should be careful while we are overtaking. We should be careful at the turning so that we will harm and alert the other person coming on the other side. We should be careful when we are speeding up. So there are so many situations in which we should be careful and anticipate an accident so that we can avoid accidents. But can we prevent all the accidents? By default, we know that even if we try our best, we cannot prevent all the accidents. We all know how an accident could have prevented after it occurred, not before it occurred. So, after a suicide, we can conduct an inquiry, what is called autopsy, psychological autopsy, and find out how we could have prevented that suicide. But definitely, practically, all suicides are not preventable, but most of them definitely can be prevented. So, this is, I think, today's news. 8 killed, 25 persons UP product. We all read such news every day in the newspaper. And my question to you is to think about what you think, which causes more deaths, whether accidents or suicides. What do you think? Whether accidents or suicides causes more death? Anyway, we shall look for the answer. In Kerala, 2021, the number of deaths due to accidents were 3,429. And the same year, death due to suicide is 9,549. This is the statistics everywhere. And let us look into other causes of unnatural death. We all are very aware of the conflict in Ukraine. How many people died during the war in all these months? It's 5,800 approximately. Average death due to suicide in Ukraine is 10,000 every year. So the suicides far outnumber accidents and other unnatural causes of death. If you take the total number of suicides in any part of the world or the whole world, it is more than that due to all the accidents, all the wars, all the terrorist activities and all other homicides. So suicide is a very important cause of preventable cause of death that we have to be aware of. And we know that our state was first in the number of suicides for long, but we have reduced, we are able to reduce our number of suicides, and we were in the 5th place. But latest statistics, we have climbed 2 stairs up and we are in the 3rd place. So suicide is an important cause of unnatural death in our place also. And coming to the number of suicide attempts, it is always approximately 20 times the number of completed suicides. So the problem of suicide and suicide attempt is very high. There are around 26 deaths per day and 1,900 suicide attempts per day. And so that our question 523 suicide attempts per day. Okay. So it seems to be very common. Suicide seems to be very common, and the number seems to outnumber all the other unnatural causes of the preventable cause of death. Have you ever come across a suicide? Do you have any person close to you, very well known to you, who committed suicide or attempted suicide? Excluding psychiatrists, most of the doctors may remember one or two, depend upon the year of their service, patients, and maybe one or two of our relatives had committed suicide over so many past decades. So suicide is a rare event, even though it seems to be very common, comparatively rare event, and the statistics we calculate the number of suicides per lakh population per year. But it's an opportunity to prevent one suicide. Maybe we will get once in a while, but it's an important opportunity to save life. It's next to creating life. So we cannot create life, we can only save life. So it's very important. For example, Kerala has a maternal mortality 30. It's much less than the national average 1.3. When our health department looked into the causes of that maternal mortality, they found that a significant contribution is due to maternal suicide during pregnancy and early childbirth days. Many mothers commit suicide. Our aim is to reduce the maternal mortality to 20 by 2030. So we realized that to reduce the maternal mortality further, we have to address suicide. So the program Amma Mansa was launched by the health department to reduce the number of maternal deaths in our state. Then coming to the role of medical practitioners, what role we have in preventing suicide? Suicides many times, most of the time occurs out of our area of control, our hospitals or our institutions or in the society. But we should know that most of the people who committed suicide had made a visit to their doctor in the last 1 month or 4 weeks. Then we should understand that doctors are in a position to know the impending suicide of a patient, a person, because most of them visit their doctors for some or other reason in the preceding 4 weeks. And the GP, the general practitioner, the doctor is the person who knows the patient the best. And the person is most likely to reveal the problem to the doctor. The only thing is we have to recognize that this person is facing such a problem. So the task before a medical practitioner, either a general practitioner or a consultant, is to recognize who is at risk. We cannot ask every person whether you are attempting suicide, or we cannot look through a lens to find suicide in each and every patient. So, since it's a rare event, we should know who are more likely to commit suicide or attempt suicide. For that, we should know the risk factors. We know that any person can think of suicide when the person is in a crisis, whether a financial crisis, emotional crisis, or any other major crisis in life. A loss by death, separation, divorce, loss of a job. These are situations in which a person may be severe stress and think of suicide. Some person who is not having a friend, a partner, no social connection, is at a higher risk of committing A person seriously diagnosed with a serious medical condition like malignancy is at the risk of suicide immediately following the diagnosis. And the past history of suicide attempt is an important marker to identify and follow a person with attempt, suicidal risk. Apart from this, psychiatric illness, depression, substance use, alcohol dependence, all these things are risk factors for suicide. So, any combination of these risk factors increases the risk further. But we should know that not all patients or most of the patients with psychiatric disorders does not commit suicide. Does not attempt suicide also. Not most, but the number of persons who attempt suicide among this population are higher compared to other parts of society. To address suicide, we have to first address a lot of myths which are prevalent among the community and even in the doctors about suicide. One of the most important such misconceptions is asking a person about suicide may induce the thought of suicide and cause the person to think about suicide. No. Every person is aware of that whether to live or die is maybe a constant thought in any person. You are not going to induce any thought of suicide if you ask it. But you have to ask, and only then you will know. Another very popular misconception is suicide prevention can be done by experts only. These other doctors or psychiatrists only. Other doctors or a common man does not have any role in prevention of suicide. No. Suicide prevention is everybody's business. And doctors have a special role because they come into contact with persons who are more likely to commit suicide. And if they can identify such persons, they can always address the problem and to some extent prevent it. Usually people say, ഒരിക്കലും വെട്ടി കഴിക്കില്ല പറയുന്നവൻ ചെയ്യില്ല ചെയ്യുന്നവൻ പറയില്ല ശരിയല്ല. Suicide attempt or thought of suicide can occur at any time and it's a cry for help. If you ask, the person is more likely to reveal the thought and we get a chance to prevent it. And those who threaten suicide are at higher risk of committing suicide. If a person is really determined to commit suicide, there is higher chance of committing suicide. Sure. But there is no absolute conviction to commit suicide in any person. It's always fluctuating. It may come as it may be a persistent thought, but suicide happens in an impulse. A person who decided that he must die and ready to die may not commit that act. The thought may pass and he may survive. So there is no absolute determination in anyone to commit suicide. Always there is a chance where we can intervene and change the decision. So it's clear that we should ask a person to know whether he will commit suicide or he will try or attempt suicide. Without asking, we may not know. We cannot know what is in that person's mind. But whom to ask? I already described the risk factors. In that case, I will say, even though you have all these risk factors, you should trust your intuition. If you feel that this person may harm himself, ask him. Especially the one who had attempted suicide in the past. Nowadays, most of the doctors prescribe antidepressants when they feel that the person is depressed, having a problem, emotional problem, anxiety. Most of the doctors, if you see the prescription, especially of general practitioners, most of them will have a cardiologist or many other gastroenterologists, many specialties. You see an antidepressant in the prescription because they identify the distress or depression in that person and it's easily treatable also. But before you prescribe an antidepressant, please ask about the suicidal thoughts and suicidal ideations or plans. Because during the antidepressant treatment, in the initial part, what happens is there is a risk of increased risk of suicide in the first few weeks of antidepressant prescription. The person may be depressed and he may be so lethargic that he has no energy to do any act. So a person may be contemplating suicide, but he may not be able to commit suicide because he is so lethargic and down. When you give an antidepressant, the person gets activated, he moves around, he does start doing things. At the same time, mood improves late. So when you start an antidepressant, as the person improves, that period, a short period, there is an increased risk of suicide. So before prescribing an antidepressant, ask about the suicidal thoughts. Secondly, only if you ask, the person will be able to tell you. Then the problem is how to ask about suicide. You cannot ask a person point blank, are you going to commit suicide, whether they are planning to commit suicide. He may not reveal, he may not tell. The person may get defensive. So before asking such a question, you should ask some questions in that premise, like ask about the family history of suicide, distress in the family, about his past life events, regret about life, hopelessness. Then, if you ask the person, see whether you are sad, പ്രയാസം അനുഭവിക്കുമ്പോൾ ജീവിതത്തിൽ നിരാശ തോന്നുന്നുണ്ടോ? അപ്പം നിരാശ തോന്നുന്നുണ്ടോ, എനിക്ക് വിഷമമാണ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരാൾ അടുത്ത ജോലി നേരിട്ട് ചോദിക്കാം. നിങ്ങൾ ആത്മഹത്യ ചെയ്യണമെന്നുള്ള ചിന്ത മനസ്സിൽ കൊണ്ട് നടക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ? നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ആത്മഹത്യ ചെയ്യണമെന്ന് തോന്നലുണ്ടോ? മരണത്തെക്കുറിച്ചും ആത്മഹത്യയെക്കുറിച്ച് ചിന്തിക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ? നേരിട്ട് ചോദിക്കും. ആ ചോദ്യം വളരെ വ്യക്തമായും നേരിട്ട് ചോദിക്കും. പലപ്പോഴും നമുക്ക് ഇത്തരം ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ ചോദിക്കാൻ മടിയാണ്. കാരണം അങ്ങനെ ചോദിക്കാവോ, എന്ത് വിചാരിക്കും? നമുക്ക് തന്നെ ആത്മഹത്യ എന്ന് കേൾക്കുമ്പോൾ പേടിയാണ്. അൽപി സാർ പറയുന്നൊരു തമാശയാണ്. നമ്മൾ ഡോക്ടറെ ചെന്ന് ആത്മഹത്യ ടെൻഷനെ കുറിച്ചൊക്കെ പറയണമെന്ന് ഡോക്ടറെ ചെല്ലുമ്പോൾ ഡോക്ടർ പേടിച്ചിരിക്കുകയാണ്. മുണ്ടില്ലാതെ അമ്മാവൻ്റെ ചെയ്യുന്നതും അമ്മാവൻ പായ കൊണ്ട് നിൽക്കുന്ന അവസ്ഥയാണെങ്കിൽ സ്വാഭാവികമായിട്ട് നമ്മൾ മുണ്ട് ചോദിക്കാതെ തിരിച്ചു വരും. അപ്പോൾ ആത്മഹത്യയെക്കുറിച്ച് സംസാരിക്കുന്നതിന് ഡോക്ടർക്ക് പേടിയാണെന്ന് തോന്നി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ റിവീൽ ചെയ്യേണ്ട ആൾക്കാർ പറയാനുള്ള തോന്നലുണ്ടാകും. അപ്പം നമ്മളത് ചോദിക്കുന്നതിന് യാതൊന്നും മരിക്കേണ്ട കാര്യമില്ല. ചോദിക്കുന്നത് സേഫാണ്, ചോദിക്കണം. അത് ചോദിക്കേണ്ട രീതിയിൽ ചോദിച്ചാൽ ഉത്തരം കിട്ടുകയും ചെയ്യും. ഒരു ബ്രീത്തിങ് ഫിസിഷ്യൻ whom the patient trusts, or a general practitioner whom the patient trusts, is most likely to get a correct answer to that question. So we should ask. ഇനി ഈ ഒരു സംഗതി എങ്ങനെ ചോദിക്കണം, എങ്ങനെ ചോദിച്ചാൽ എന്ത് ചെയ്യണം എന്നുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ച് ഒന്ന് രണ്ട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ കുറച്ച് സ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്യണം. അങ്ങനെ പറയാൻ കാര്യമെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ even if we know how should be done, to ask that question is a skill. അപ്പോൾ അതിനകത്ത് കുറച്ച് ഇമ്പ്രൂവിങ് സ്കിൽസ് നമ്മൾ ഇമ്പ്രൂവ് ചെയ്യാനുണ്ട്. എങ്ങനെ റിസ്ക് അസസ് ചെയ്യണം എന്ന് നമ്മൾ അറിയണം. ഇനി ഒരാൾ മരിക്കും, ഞാൻ ആത്മഹത്യ ചെയ്യാൻ തീരുമാനിച്ചു എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അടുത്ത ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ എന്തൊക്കെ ചോദിക്കണം, എന്ത് ചെയ്യണം, ഇത് നമ്മൾ അറിയണം. അതർവൈസ് നിർദ്ദിഷ്ട പോയിന്റ് ആസ്ക്. നമ്മൾ ഒരാൾ ആത്മഹത്യ ചെയ്യാൻ പോവുകയാണെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് ശരി എന്നാൽ വീട്ടിൽ പോകുമെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് വിടാനേ നമുക്ക് പറ്റുന്നുള്ളതിന് ചോദിക്കുന്നതിന് യാതൊരു അർത്ഥമില്ല. സോ യു ഷുഡ് ബി ഏബിൾ ടു ഹാൻഡിൽ എ ഷോർട്ട് പീരിയഡ് in which he can be made safe or he can be referred. So the important thing is regarding the interview of the suicidal patient is listening. This is a book written by a cancer physician. Listening in silence, God speaks. So listening skills. Next topic is about interviewing the patient. So she will be leading all those things. So I am skipping those topics. So how to manage a suicidal patient? First, we should know that it's a cry for help, and best person to talk is the treating doctor and not a psychiatrist. Maybe if you need an expert management, you may be able to send that patient to the psychiatrist or expert management. Second, any general practitioner or specialist come across is managing attempted suicide cases. First of all, the first priority is saving life, not outcome, and treating the condition. But after that, what if the person goes to attempt suicide again and complete that? All your efforts are in vain. So equally important is to assess the suicide risk and prevent the person from committing further act. So that is the area in which consultation is considered. So in any DSH attempt, a collaboration with the psychiatrist right from the admission is essential to handle a person with suicidal attempt or DSH attempt. There is a slight difference between attempted suicide and deliberate self-harm, but practically we are considered both the same. In DSH, there is no real intention to die. All the persons who committed or attempted, all the persons who attempted to suicide once is 100 times at risk of completing that than any other person. So, in helping a person with suicidal attempt, first is to ask, second is to keep the person safe. There are several means, maybe my next speaker will be telling. And be there always to listen. In case of a problem, if you feel, just call me, you can ask the person to call you. He is not going to disturb you for unnecessarily, but that will save a life. And give them contact numbers, in which there are suicide helpline call numbers. These are the numbers by Disha. It's available 24 hours. They will connect to an expert or psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist. And stay with the person emotionally or till the danger of crisis is over. So suicide prevention is everyone's business. There are multifactorial, the cause is multifactorial, psychological, social, political, financial, so many other causes are there. And everyone in the society, especially those who are in contact with many people, like priests, politicians, doctors, they have a better, greater role in preventing suicide. And also, as already mentioned, medical profession has a special role. So, let us join hands in preventing premature death due to suicide. Thank you for your attention.